Good afternoon to one and all. With the blessings of our founder Chancellor Colonel Dr. JPR sir, I am happy to welcome you for the virtual symposium on the recent trends in aquaculture industries, jointly organized by Colonel Dr. JPR Research Park, Center for Ocean Research, and Satyabama University Technology Business Incubator in association with Ministry of Earth Science and Technology Cell. On behalf of Center for Ocean Research, we sincerely express our heartfelt thankfulness to our Honorable Chancellor Madam Dr. Maria Zena Johnson, and our President, Sir Dr. Mary Johnson, for their constant guidance, support, and encouragement in conducting this virtual symposium. Now it is the time to welcome Dr. D. Inbagandan, Head, Center for Ocean Research, and the today's guest speaker, Dr. Maria Raj Vijay, Director, Best Aquastar Shrimp Hatcheries, Proprietor, Arcone Life Science, for the sixth day afternoon session of the virtual symposium. I am Vijay, a marine biotechnologist, postgraduate Master of Science and Master of Philosophy in Marine Biotechnology in Mannonmaniam Sundarnar University and submitted PhD thesis in Marine Biotechnology Aquaculture in University of Madras. He has over 18 years of wide technical experience as technical service expert in almost all branches of aquaculture. Currently, Dr. M. Vijay is the Director of Best Aquastar Shrimp Hatcheries, Marakanam, Tamil Nadu, and proprietor of Arcone Life Science, Puducherry, and Arcone Laboratories, Kontai, West Bengal, and technical advisor of KNC Agro Group, West Bengal. He had started career with Hiravati Marine Products Private Limited, Pobandar, Gujarat, as a technologist. Then worked with CP Aquaculture India Private Limited, Chennai, as a technician, hatchery and feed marketing. Worked with Tablets India Limited, Chennai, as a technical service executive. He had owned and operated Maria Aqua Services in Andhra Pradesh, Kerala, and Tamil Nadu for providing consultancy services to the shrimp and fish farmers, and worked with Rajshri Biosolutions, Coimbatore, Tamil Nadu, as the head of aquaculture market operation and established its market across India as well as in neighboring countries of India. He was one of the founder member of this organization. M. Vijay had done a research work entitled Reviving Shrimp Ponds Under Disuse in India, an Ecological Economics Approach, which was appreciated by aquaculture professionals across India as it's one of the significant research works to elevate Indian aquaculture, has been carried out under the guidance of Dr. T. Ravi Shankar, Principal Scientist SIBA, and to be submitted shortly for the award of doctoral degree in University of Madras. With pride and immense pleasure, we welcome Dr. Maria Raj Vijay to give the talk on aquaculture career and opportunities. A warm welcome you, sir. The session is over to you, sir.
Vijay sir, you can proceed, please.
Okay. Vanakkam. So, good afternoon, everyone. This is Vijay from Pondicherry. Actually, first of all, I would like to congratulate Dr. Inbagandan for organizing such a very nice event, scientific event for the past 5 days, bringing several aquacultural intellectuals. So Mr. Dr. Manoj Sharma and Dr. Cheran and Victor Suresh sir, Dr. Fashat, and my brothers, Dr. Kadravan and Dr. Selva Kumar, and few more people. So it's a nice nights and wonderful event is actually being organized. And at the same time, I would like to thank Dr. Inbagandan for inviting me to give you a small lecture about the current aquaculture and current aquaculture and its trends. So, actually, apart from that, I would like to thank the organizing institute, Satyabama University, for a wonderful steps, a wonderful initiative to boost the aquacultural. For contributing aquacultural activities. Okay. The first of all, see, the topic I have chosen is something different from the mainstream. Okay. So when everybody talk about trends, technologies, and all those the related things, I just got diverted and have chosen career and opportunities. Though it is very important for this for the entire industry. So I would like to get into this. First of all, as I said earlier, though it is something different from the current trends, it's a value thing, and it's a time, it's a hour of need. See, the targeted people in the particular symposium, I think, I believe more than 50% of people are from student community. It is my duty to let you guys know that how big this industry and how much potential it has. Okay, so but since I'm a business entrepreneur, so this is my duty to let some people, at least some people of you, from some people of from different sectors, or even it's aquaculture and fishery sector, to get into this aquaculture industry. So the thing is that actually, see, there are a lot of things and stuffs we need to talk about. First, we are getting into the career and opportunity. It's a simple thing, okay. But thing is that to know how big this industry, how much potential this industry has, it's very important. So, so that's why actually, see, I would like to elaborate what are the opportunities and career opportunities are available in front of you in aquaculture as well as fisheries. See, in India, you can see, I think the east coast and west coast is a vast coastal line we have. Okay, almost 18 kilometers of this coastal line, and we are blessed with those coastal lines, which is very suitable for aquaculture activities. Okay, just a second. Actually, these are the things actually we are going to have.
Yes, sir.
So the coastal line, as I said, 8,118 kilometers long. We are blessed with that, and in that actually, so you would like to, you have to know that the estuarine area, you know, so the that is actually 3.9 million hectares. Okay, the 3.9 million, of which 1.2 million hectares of salt affected area, which is very, very suitable for shrimp farming, and 0.58 hectares of aquaculture. That area can be used for aquaculture purpose. So in addition to this, coastal mangroves areas are almost actually 0.5 million hectare, which actually lies in West Bengal, Orissa, and a few parts of even Tamil Nadu, you know very well, actually Pichavaram and all those areas, it's suitable for the crab culture also, since it has a mangroves area. Okay, see, in the freshwater area, if you look at that, 2.2 million hectares of fresh water earthen ponds are available. Earthen ponds are available, which can be utilized for freshwater aquaculture. Then lakes and reservoirs, you know very well, we have actually blessed, the India is blessed with a lot and lots of lakes and reservoirs. It is comes around to 2.09 million hectares. Okay, so particularly, so in this brackish water aquaculture, I would like to tell you one thing: the West Bengal and Gujarat states, you know, they are highly blessed than other states. See, they have very good high tidal amplitude. So by having this, they can go. They are actually they are in the what you call the process of leading the country in shrimp aquaculture. So there are 2.2 million, 2.3 million hectares of abundant paddy fields, which can be used for fish culture. And actually, surprisingly, you know, I think you may be knowing that there are 9 million hectares of salt affected areas, and saline groundwater reserves are actually available in Haryana, Rajasthan, Punjab, Uttar Pradesh, Maharashtra, and Gujarat. So it is a very big, actually, it's a very big reserve. Actually, I would like to tell you. So shrimp, actually, it is very suitable to, it is actually really suitable to culture those crustaceans. Personally, I have visited a few places in Punjab and Haryana. So those areas actually now actually has started, those areas have started shrimp culture. Venama is from shrimp. Venama shrimp is the PL, I'm telling you. It's being exported to shipped to Punjab from Marakanam area. So the desert aquaculture, so it's like Middle East countries. We also have started very recently. The trial is going on in Rajasthan desert. It's actually a good thing. It's a very, it gives very good scope. Look at the look at the table of the potential versus under culture. See, as I said earlier, West Bengal and Gujarat have very good potential. Look at 2013 and 2018. In the 5 years, there is actually 25% of increase in farming area. Sorry, yeah, and there is an important call. The farming area actually increased by 25% from 2013 to 2018. It was 1.3 lakhs in 2013 and 1.6 around 1.6 and 7 in 2017. The utilized the area utilized. You just look at the area utilized. Since the average percentage of utilized is very less, 13.66 only. Moreover, actually, there are some data, the unofficial data, showing that in 20 to 40% of unregistered farms are there. So still 11.9 lakh of areas actually not yet utilized, fully, completely utilized, not utilized. The contribution of our aquaculture and fisheries is huge to the GDP. The agriculture, actually, the agriculture's GDP is 5.23. To the GDP is 23, of which the aquaculture alone contributes 1.62. It's a big thing, so that's why actually we actually proudly we people actually proudly say that we feed the world, and we are we are one of the very important pillars in building Indian economy. 1.62, and it generates almost to 14 million of jobs. Surprisingly, in Indian aquaculture, if I look at that, the small landholders plays very big role. So 95%, 9 to 95% of farmers are small landholders. They have actually less than 2 hectares only. Okay, the rest of 5 to 10%, that is actually 2.2 to 5 hectares. The corporate farms which we usually talk about is really very less. The contribution to the entire production is actually coming from the small scale industry only. That means small scale farming only. The production and export. See, look at the increase. Look at the jump from 2018 to 2019. So 2 lakhs ton actually. See, it is actually 31% shrimp production. It's a remarkable things actually we have achieved. The export got 8% to various countries. It increased, and the shrimp alone represented 83% in 2019. In the pandemic time, actually before starting that in March, through March 2020, about actually we have produced 2.3 metric ton of 2.3 lakh metric ton shrimp we have produced. Out of that, 78%, that is actually got exported to the global market. Why does aquaculture matter? Why should we take aquaculture as a career, or we have to treat it as an opportunity? See, look at this slide. Just 14% increase has been recorded in the from the global capture fish production from almost 30 years, 92 2018, almost 30 years. But when you look at the global aquaculture production, it's actually it goes like a rocket speed, 5 to 7. 527% it actually it gone to that. At the same time, parallelly, the fish consumption, that also day by day on daily basis, it goes up, plus 122%. So see, look at the, if you look at that slide, you can come to know how big this market is and how important market is. Why should we take this aquaculture fisheries as a career? Of course, it generates a huge employment. So these two, aquaculture and fisheries, put together, generate almost, as I said earlier, it generates huge employment. In that, globally, if you look at that, 59.5 million people were engaged in both primary and primary sector of fisheries and aquaculture. Aquaculture alone, 20.5 million people are employed, and fisheries 39%. It is just a slight increase from 2017. But majority of the workforce is being supplied by Asia only, we ourselves, 85%. So still I have a lot to talk about the same stuff which we are talking about. To meet the actually day by day the demand for the animal protein, it's actually goes up. You cannot imagine how much we need in another 50 or 100 years. But in 2020, we need at least 196 million tons of animal protein. But currently we stands at, I think, almost 170 million tons of milk. So what are you going to, how we are going to fill up the gap? Already the current depletion rate of marine stock is actually almost next to impossible. So that means that the bucket, that the marine stock bucket is almost actually gone. So we need to fill up that gap. Who can come and fill up the gap? So aquaculture is the only option which can fill up the gap. So India has the chance. India has the potential to bridge the gap if we concentrate on aquaculture, since we have very good potential. So there are a lot of ways and opportunities and options through which you can, my language, I can say, to fill up the gap. You can take, these are the options, these are the options and opportunity. You can take as a business like shrimp culture, fish culture, seaweed culture, crab, lobster, mussel, clams, and I think you people know very well about it. Since from hatchery background, so I would like to tell you two things. The one is polychaete culture, and Artemia and oyster culture. So every day on daily basis, we import lot and huge quantity of Artemia from overseas, America or another, Taiwan or Vietnam and all those foreign countries. Our Indian money, we are pumping like anything. So we need to stop this. So we have to it is not possible 100%, but we have to try. 100% of, I can say 100% of the purchase is being done to actually in the name of foreign companies only. So if you concentrate, if people take Artemia culture as a career or opportunity or anything else, it will be a best help to induce the Indian economy. So Artemia, Polycate, these two, and so the feed also actually. See, mainly the hatchery side, we spent lot of money for a lot of money on shrimp feeds, Artemia and polychaetes to feed the brooders and PL. So almost 80% of those inputs we are purchasing from the foreign countries. So we need to stop. So my request is, it's a high time, it's a hour of need to do something for that. So one can take integrated aqua farms, along with agriculture, livestock, and other poultry business, you can do this also. Fish and shrimp hatchery. So you cannot go if you are not in the position to spend more money. At least you can start back at fish hatcheries, and feed meal and fish feed industry is a big one. It needs huge amount of the capital, but still there is an opportunity to get into this process and pre-processing unit. It doesn't need actually pre-processing units. Establishing a pre-processing units doesn't need a huge amount, but still you can select that. Seafood logistics, you can. And value added products. Value added product is actually it's nothing, is but so we can say jam, dried fish, pickle, and few businesses which need which actually don't need huge quantity of money for the investment. As usual, actually there are some cultivable biological sources, okay, which you can take as a business. Finfishes, shrimps. First, finfishes, sea bass, pearl spot, and ephinebulus, grouper, millfishes. So sea bass. Sea bass actually the technology of this one, the culturing, breeding, culturing of that sea bass is done by SIBA, where I done my research work. Dr. Arasu, such a very what do you say? There is no where to explain about him. Such a very big genius, and he has done very big role in actually spreading this sea bass culture throughout India. So sea bass can be cultured in polyculture system. Okay, it gives really very good input also. Sorry, output also. So sea bass one can definitely take. It actually the technology is with SIBA. You can get the tie-up with them, and actually you can move on. And few more a few more species also you can culture. Crab, one of the commercially valuable species you can culture. These two, Scylla serrata and Scylla tangobaria, is highly valuable crops, which is being practiced. The culture of this one is actually being practiced in Kerala, Karnataka, and Tamil Nadu area. Especially, you see, if you go and go and visit the Palaverkad, Pulikad area, most of the ST people, that means those people actually getting benefit by culturing these crops. Actually, the people are calling them irregular. Some actually the community, so they are they are doing very good things in crab fattening. Crab fattening is nothing actually. The only large crabs, large sized crabs that have recently molted. The recently molted, you have to collect the this crabs and holding the large size still 10 to 13 days until it becomes hard. Then it is actually it is actually attainable size to market. So once it's actually it becomes attainable size, and then you can definitely market the crab. it has really very good market value. Shrimps actually, several people talked about shrimp, and you must, you actually might be knowing about this. So you actually you are very well know. I think you are completely known about the shrimps, how to culture the shrimps and all the things. So I'm not going to kill your time. So let skip. Seaweed, seaweed is very good business. You can definitely take up as a career. See, there are few areas in India, especially in the southern southeast coast of Tamil Nadu, Gujarat coast, Lakshadweep, Andaman Nicobar Islands, where you can see luxuriant growth of uh, green, brown, and red algae. I think yesterday Dr. Jay Kumar has covered almost, I think, each and every corner of this seaweed farming and its uses and all. So I'm not going to get into this deeply. So even though I'm going to touch a few points only, seaweeds, but the luxury and just the fairy growth of seaweeds, you can see at Mumbai, Ratnagiri, Karwar, go in this actually in the west coast, you can see the luxuriant growth of the population of seaweed beds. In addition to this, coast lakes like Silka and Pulicat also have it. Coastal aquaculture actually, you see, in the coastal region, I can give you an example how this seafood feeds those fisher folks. In Gulf of Mannar and Palk Bay, there are almost 38 coastal villages known to harvest seaweed. It's a seasonal work they are doing. Once the season gets over and ends, they will switch to other fishing activities. Almost, I think, approximately one person can earn $1,000 or $1,500 per annum. So it is a natural. It's a the collection is being done in natural only. So no need to invest anything. So usually the seaweed, it is being used for the production of phycochloids, including agar, alginate, carrageenan, and other purposes. Okay, so see so how they are processing and how it gets value, how it gets its value. So the value of look at the value of Gelidia. It's a tried Gelidia. 1 ton of Gelidia is 1,800 rupees, and this Crassilaria, sargassum, and the Turbinaria, this seaweed, it is lesser than the Gelidilla since the components is somewhat highly value one when compared to Crassilaria and the sargassum. It is actually the $800. Actually, before the face of seaweed culture in India got completely changed. The scenario got changed after the introduction of Capabacus. So because it's a fastest growing seaweed, and it has lot of potential to use as thickener, emulsifier, binder, and other those things. It is actually being used for the toothpaste, cosmetics, ice cream, and all those things. Okay. The commercial cultivation actually started in 2001. Actually, the by Pepsi India Holding. Actually, it is the culture of Papaya started in I think so before 2001. Yeah, by Dr. Iswaran, who is the principal scientist in CSMSRI, Mars Marine Algal Research Station in Mandapam camp. Actually, he actually imported a few, it's a small mass of biomass of Kappa from Japan and started trialing. And I think he succeeded after a lot of trials, a lot of trial. And he come to actually. He actually found a lot of the variety of ways to culture the Kappa Pegasus. So the CSMSR, yeah, actually it has they have done the technological transfer to Pepsi India Holdings. The Pepsi India, that actually done a very good job. They initiated the buyback system with self-help groups to uplift their socio-economic status. So the CSMSR's role in Kappa Pegasus and Indian aquaculture, Indian seaweed cultivation, it's marvelous. The seaweed, you seaweed, it has another potential also. It acts as a biofertilizer and immunostimulants, which can be used in even aquaculture and agriculture. Being used in the broad spectrum of products such as food. This point actually we have already discussed. And this, come to the biofuel. The next 10 or 20 years, we have to depend on, the fuels, so that's why actually government has taken the initiative to blend 20% of biofuels by 2030. So in that initiative, so alva species, alva, Kappa Pegasus species, Crassilaria, Gelidium, and Sargassum species can contribute for biofuel. From that, actually, we can extract the biofuel. So based on the policy, the National Biofuel Policy of India, which is targeting 20% of blending of biofuels by 2030. So it is estimated that if you want to achieve that, you have to harvest 460 million tons of fresh seaweed biomass from 10 million hectares. That is actually 5% of our exclusive, 5% of the area I'm telling you. So the 5% of total exclusive economic zone of India. Then only it could generate 6.6 million the billion liters of bioethanol, which can meet, I think, 20% of blending biofuels by 2030. The pearl oyster farming, so it's an untapped sector which we are we have not yet utilized. The how to culture the pearl oyster in the controlled environment, that technical breakthrough was achieved in 1973 by CM Farai at Chuchuguri. Then again the same, that equally important and significant breakthrough was achieved in the controlled production of pearl oyster in the hatchery done in 1981. So after that, in 1981, from 1981 to till date, actually, there is no, there are, I can say a few number of research findings only to have to culture commercially this PL oysters. So very recently, I came to know that there is a success story actually from Kerala. Mr. Mathachan Kasaragod, Kerala. He has done marvelous work. Actually, it triggered people actually to do the pearl oyster culture. See, he has spent just 1.5 lakhs of investment, and within 18 months of time, he produced almost 4.5 lakhs worth of pearl and got 3 lakhs of profit. See the percentage of profit. So, this is one of the sector you can definitely get in, and most of them are this the produced. It actually got exported to Australia. It's being exported to Australia, Saudi Arabia, Kuwait, and Switzerland. For your kind investment, the real pearl would cost around 3,000 per carat and 1,800 per gram. So since that cosmetic and this other sector actually other sectors are other means the film industry like that, they need they need the support from this kind of business. This is the way how he cultured and he's culturing freshwater pearl oyster. See, actually it looks really nice, It's a simple technology he is using, okay. So in the backyard itself, he is actually, in his backyard itself, he is culturing it. And the harvested freshwater pearl oyster. Yeah. So since the opportunity, the opportunity is not gender-based normally, and gender-based. Still, we actually women are not permitted to assess their opportunity. So actually, my point being from the aquaculture background. So I believe women's participation in aquaculture and fisheries, it is very important to achieve the superpower in India. I'm telling. So in this contest, I wanted to let you know where the women is. Some issues in actually, yeah. Just some issues in I think my side. Okay, actually.
What happened, sir?
Yeah, no, actually we had a network issue. That's why I'm not, okay. So, okay. So the people may think that it's out of box, but see within the box only, actually I would like to tell, I would like to explain how women is very important to this aquaculture and the fishery sectors. So the FIO figures tells that women account for just 14% only. So I have some disturbance.
So we can see your slide clearly, sir.
Yeah, I actually see, but I'm not able to see the first line of my slides.
Okay.
That's why actually I get stuck.
Okay, sir.
It has to come down, or so whenever
It is
somebody
clear. The thing is, it's very clearly visible to all of us, the
So-
audience.
So
or all
here
of
in the
us.
scene, there is a box. It repeatedly showing that somebody is entering the waiting room for this meeting. So admit
Okay.
that.
Okay, sir. Okay,
that is
sir.
the thing.
We will take care of that. We will take care of that.
Kindly, yeah. So yes,
Vinit, one
Yes,
minute,
sir.
sir. Vinit, make it into your own control.
Yes, sir.
Okay, make it.
yeah.
Yes, sir. Done, sir. Done, sir. Done.
Thanks a lot. So sorry for the disturbance actually.
No problem.
No problem, sir.
So the FIO my reports tells that actually the women account just 14% out of 59.9 million people engaged in the primary sector of fisheries and aquaculture. But that women studies and other NGO people actually reporting that 1 out of 2 workers are women. Still, I have some issues.
Again, it is coming to you.
Yeah.
That box.
The box is not coming, but the right side, we people, we three are, that.
That is, I think, speaker. You can go to the speaker user.
That's a good thing, actually. See, but,
Yeah, please, please.
so how to do it, Dr. Kandan?
Yeah, actually, it will be on the top right corner, sir. You will see an option called speaker view or thumbnail view, like that. Can you see that, sir?
Hide thumbnail video.
Yes,
This
sir.
one?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. You can click on that.
Yeah, that's a good. Thank you.
Yes.
See, so the FOO figure, it tells that the women account for just 14% of total 59.5 million people engaged in primary sector of fisheries and aquaculture, and instead of that, actually, when comparing sorry, actually, that many others, and the women studies and some NGOs, they are reporting that 1 out of 2 farm women, the workers are women. They are stating like this. So almost 50% of workers are from a women community. Okay. Women provides labor in both commercial and traditional fisheries, and act as a small scale entrepreneurs when the capital allows. However, that still the women plays unstable roles, and they are getting paid very less amount. Even sometimes they are not paid in the proper way, and that those position, it requires lower qualifications. Most of them in the secondary sector, most of them are say in secondary sector only, and those are under recognized or not recognized at all in sector. This is status of women in aquaculture and fisheries sector in various countries. So in Indian scenario is something different from other countries. So look at the slide. The Bangladesh. So I have listed few more countries. In the Bangladesh, they get very good support from NGOs and other entrepreneurs. They are encouraging the farmers and the women community to engage in aquaculture activities. In Belize, majority of the women are involved in the processing side, since they are from a rural community and the poverty is high in those rural area. Cuba, it seems very good numbers, which constitute 27% of the aquaculture force. Jamaica, actually, the 8 to 11% of women who own fish farms and other things. Malaysia, 10% of workforce are into this aquaculture activity. They are women involved in freshwater aquaculture and hatchery operations for marine and freshwater fish and shrimps. In Panama, actually 80% of the workforce in processing plants, but in the production sector, just 7% only. Our neighboring country, Sri Lanka, it has just 5% only, and 30% of women force, they are engaged in production and breeding of ornamental fishes. So the surprisingly and the positive things is we are observing from Israel, the actually 95% of the workforce belongs to this women community, since they are skilled one, because highly technical knowledge of aquaculture they have. Status of Indian women in aquaculture and fisheries. So in Indian women, so in India, so the women are known to play the roles that are household related, fisheries related, and in research development. So they are actually completely and dedicatedly they are working on that only. So in the household related, you know very well. You know very well. If fisheries related, that they do marketing, pre-processing, processing, and a restricted role in harvest. Again, the woman, though the women constitute approximately half of Indian population, play a vital role in operation of fisheries. They actually the contribution of fisher women, it is upset a few years in few areas in harvest sector and more predominantly in post-harvest activities, which includes handling, preservation, processing, and marketing of seafood products, and provides an integral link between producers and consumers. Still, the women community is limited to access resources and opportunities. And this is being observed that they are not adequately represented in the leader position. So the data about that women is completely scarce and even is not available. If it is available, it is poor quality, not covering all the sections adequately. So women's participation is often constrained by strong cultural rules, some communal conventions also. While the future growth of fisheries industry, it is expected to come from the fishing activities. So, so where women who can enter fish production in developing countries actually still like they are fighting for to own even a boat or land. So as usual, the next point is actually clearly states that limited access to loans. You cannot get the loan if the bank or any funding agency, and they may think that actually you are not capable enough, you are not capable the stuff enough to handle that business. So the limit, so the access to the access to the loans, it is completely different from male when compared to this one. So you cannot get the easy, but we have to knock the door again and again and get the loan. The problem of gender inequality, it is completely not, it's not only limited in small scale fisheries in developing countries, it is also reflected in the relative absence of women in boardrooms, executive position and fisheries conference. It's true. I think you might be, actually we are witnessing it. Women in harvester sector, harvesting activities visible in inland water bodies. This is actually to support the household nutrient requirements. They are doing it. The women are actually committed to do it. And some area, in Orissa and West Bengal, the people, the women community actually are engaged in collecting shrimp seeds and crabs from intertidal region of Yeshuri and other parts. None of the harvesting activities, are large scale, and this is not comparable with the fisherman. So the fisherman, so whatever the harvest activities he does, it is not comparable with women's aviation. In the post-harvest sector, in India, it is not only India, the entire across the globe, the predominant in the post-harvest fishery sector is it's completely, the women occupies the entire post-harvest sector, engaged in marketing, drying, smoking, salting, fermenting, and other seafood industry-oriented pre-processing and processing. and 50 to 70% of these them and their family are dependent on fresh fish marketing and traditional fish processing for their livelihoods. And in the southern states, you know, the 50 to 70% of the people are people and their families are dependent on fresh fish marketing only. In Lakshadweep, there is a place, the Minikai. There actually the major tuna-based fisheries product, these three, you know, is being handled by the women only. Women in aquaculture farming. The reason actually, so why the contribution of women in aquaculture is limited? The reason is the location of aquaculture sites is in remote area. Also, several socio-cultural taboos. Okay, so they are strictly involved in pond preparation, stocking, feeding, and harvesting, along with men. So they cannot do it in. They are not doing it alone. So along with women, they are doing it, and the ownership of a farm, you know, is still largely male dominated. So women can be seen engaged in carp breeding and rearing, carp polyculture, ornamental fish breeding, fish preparation, and culture of this spirulina and azolla. So in West Bengal, there are some places where ornamental fish breeding is being done by women. And there are some women, the group of women, they are doing some ancillary activities also, net making and mending, you know, that is actually being done in Jafrabad of Mamreli district, Gujarat, and Navbandar, in Bhavnagar district in Gujarat, and also Kakti, West Bengal, and Jagadishpur, Orissa. So what are the barrier and constraints for to a woman to participate and get the leadership? So first of all, actually, lack of recognition of the work. So actually, lack of recognition of work, you know, their works and contribution in fisheries and aquaculture, you know, that is not recognized, particularly on the part of male fishers, and the notion that women do not fish. They are thinking that actually the woman cannot do the fish. And the next one, the lack of information and contribution. Women's contribution and work, you know, actually that is not recorded well. The absence of the gender disaggregation, you know, in many employment statistics, it's not available. So one cannot know that someone actually achieved this, so we can move on. So the lack of information, you know, it is completely unacceptable. So a lot of so we need to have a lot of statistics on this. Lack of integration of knowledge. The lack of integration of women's knowledge and experience, you know, this into fisheries management is completely, we are experiencing it. Women's perception, actually women's perception, you know, she himself think that fisher organizations are male domain. It is one of the biggest and biggest barrier to be to get the validation. And the personal barrier also, the lack of time, lack of confidence, and the scarcity of formal education. See, this, you know, this some people think that the women are actually, women are usually seen as some mothers and wives, while men are seen as breadwinners and leaders. We actually, most of the people are thinking like that. So, but women can do it. Still, the opportunities and careers are scattered equally for men and women only, not men alone. So actually now we have seen the socio and economic status of women. and overall actually how to lift those women community as well as sorry, the entire human being, actually entire people, especially women. So how to uplift them? So aquaculture and fishery sector, this sector actually now gets very good boost from the government of India. So because very recently in February 2019, we have the government has created the Department of Fisheries, the separate Department of Fisheries. So by creating this, by creating this, we believe that we can boost boost and double the farmers' income and address the challenges of sustainability. The government has merged all the schemes of fishery sector into an umbrella scheme of blue revolution. Actually, very recently, everybody actually started talk about the blue revolution. So it is very important that all the schemes, the existing schemes actually merged with so one scheme is called blue revolution, that is the integrated development and management of fisheries. This is actually focusing on increasing fish production and productivity from aquaculture and fisheries resources. The creation of the separate Department of Fisheries, it's a significant step done by Government of India. The creation of fisheries and aquaculture infrastructure development fund very recently was approved. The total fund size of 7,522.48 crores. NFDP and Blue Revolution scheme. See, NFDP concentrate on and developing fisheries. There is intensive aquaculture in ponds and tanks, reservoir fisheries development, coastal aquaculture, mariculture, and seaweed cultivation, and infrastructure. When it comes to infrastructure, fishing harbor, the developing of fishing harbors and fish landing centers, fish dressing centers, and solar drying of fishes, domestic marketing, and deep sea fishing also, ornamental fishes, and other things. So it helps for technology of upgradation projects, human resource development program, and fishery sectors, etc. From 2017, actually 16 and 17, that the NFDP scheme has been subsumed in umbrella scheme, Blue Revolution. And NFD is the major component of the restructured scheme. Actually, here there is no component-wise specific outlay made, including for inland fisheries and aquaculture, as the scheme is actually this demand-driven. So in 2015 to 2020, the amount of 3,000 crores budget has been approved and released. Again, FADF actually gives and funds for establishment of fishing harbors, fish landing centers, processing units for upgradation and new establishment. Fish transport, cold chain network infrastructure, ice plants, cold storage, and pre-processing centers, setting up brood stock banks, hatcheries, fish feed mills, plants, and fisheries development in reservoirs. Again, mariculture, seaweed cultivation, and all those things actually they are supporting and do it. Even the RAS, low cost RAS, also being supported by this FIDF. Surprisingly, renovation of NREGF, Mahatma Gandhi National Rural Employment Guarantee Act, that actually that's being ready for fish culture. The funding patterns, if you look at the funding patterns on subsidy, and actually the Northeast and hilly states of the admissible subsidy, the state and central share actually shall be as follows. That Northeast and hilly states, 90 percentage share actually comes from the central, and 10 percentage of 10 percentage comes from the state. Union territory, 100 percentage of share actually being given by central only. Other states like Tamil Nadu and other Tamil Nadu, Gujarat and all other states actually getting 60 percentage of central and 40 percentage from state. Total admissible government subsidy, central and state put together, that will be 40 percentage of the projects for general category, and 60 percentage for, this is a actually valid point and very important point also, 60 percentage of the project cost for weaker section like ACST, women and their cooperatives. The funding institutions, NFTB, NCDC, NABARD, and all scheduled banks and state fisheries departments are funding, are actually recommending to fund. So these are the funding agency we have to approach, and the detailed project, so the project report, project proposal, that has to be reached. So if you want to start any business in fisheries and aquaculture, so you have to you have to make a presentation and the proposal, and it has to be reached to the address given here. One has to go. So the joint secretary and New Delhi, for one of fisheries, and the copy has to be marked to the chief secretary. Note of contribution by government. As very recently, the government of India has sanctioned 1,840 crores up to August 18 to promote aquaculture and the fishery sector. And assistance provided for bringing almost 30,000 hectares of land under aquaculture. And they have sanctioned 89 numbers of landing centers, almost 200, 199 number of RA systems, installation of pens and cages in reservoirs and other pens, other open water bodies, almost 7,600 approved. And fish and prawn hatchery, is almost they approved 400, 3,889 numbers. 318 units of post-harvest infrastructure facilities, that is ice plants and cold storage, has been approved, and they have trained almost 63,000 of fish farmers and other stakeholders. I think you may be knowing that the government of India allows 100 FDI, foreign direct investment in aquaculture through an automatic route, but under actually controlled conditions. The government has been working towards the new projects, like Blue Revolution, with the objective of developing wetland fisheries to empower communities and stakeholders through improved livelihood, and to define the refined region specific fisheries. Actually, you see, in this point, they actually, by doing this, we can refine region specific fisheries enhancements. Government of Indian seafood, it has the potential of finding its place high in the global market. Okay, so the government of India, India's intervention along with the growing market and a conducive business and a regulatory ecosystem, India can definitely leverage this sector. It is for actually you see open new avenues for investment and export. My view on near future is, so by going through several articles and reports, so this is actually happening. The world is going to be happen. World fish production, that this one actually it will go up, and consumption parallelly that also, and the trade are expected to increase like anything. So, what is our role? The India, as a whole, Asia will continue to dominate the aquaculture, and the responsible for it is going to be responsible for 18% of the increase in production by 2030. And Africa also, so the sector is expected to expand up to 48%. So world food consumption in 2020 is projected to 18%. It's actually very much higher than 2018. So this is actually so what I wanted to tell you. So the last but not least, my presentation, that is just a minute. Dr. Inbakandan?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Sir,
Yeah. Yeah, I'm not able to.
click escape, sir. Escape.
There is escape key. Vijay sir, escape ஒரு key இருக்குல, அதை click பண்ணுங்க, வெளியில வந்துடலாம். ஆர் நீங்க ஏதாவது ஒரு particular slide போணுமா?
So வெளியே வந்துட்டேன் son. Okay, is it okay to go move again?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah, you can go ahead.
Okay. So the participants actually, see, I would like to tell you one thing actually. See, so there are a lot of numbers I have, numbers, figures, tables, and those things actually I have given. This is not, I believe, not enough to start the business. So we have to be patient, and we have to work very smartly. So there is a saying, and so before that, I'll tell you one thing. Mr. Jack Ma, the founder of Alibaba, so I actually, so how big he is. He used to tell one thing, so which is actually impressed me, and so actually which I wanted to tell you. So when you work, so when you study in the school or college, so you just study well, okay? So you just study well and come out of school or colleges, start working with a small or any small any new startup where you can apply your ideas, views, and other things. So say if you start your career with any big concern, you will be one among 100 or 1,000 or 1 lakh. So you have to select where you have to be, and the place where you can find yourself potential. So work hard, and work for some time, 4 years, 5 years, something. Actually, then you and see and be loyal to the company where you are working. Then you just come out of a company 4 or 5 years. After 4 or 5 years of working there, you start a small company. Actually, company are big. It's actually up to your financial capacity. Okay. And move on with the full strength. Okay, so this is a thing actually. This is a thing I'm actually following it. Okay, so I congratulate and I congratulate the participants to have a look on the swim culture. Those who are even come from other backgrounds. And actually got the very good knowledge by the help of those aquaculture intellectuals. And I'm very happy. I'm very much glad. Actually, I'm very much happy that I'm actually part of this historic event. So so last but not least, so I would like to tell you guys that be safe in the pandemic time. So so if it is necessary, you just to go out, do some work. Otherwise, stay back and be safe. God bless you all.
Thank you. Thank you, Vijay sir. Thanks for the wonderful presentation. Almost you have narrated all the opportunities and career opportunities in the aquaculture, and you already you highlighted the point particularly about the women in aquaculture. And to this gathering, I want to inform that there is one expert in this aquaculture industry. She is a woman. She is Dr. V. Maria, who is nothing but Vijay sir's spouse. She is the director, Best Aquastar Shrimp Hatchery, Marakanam, Tamil Nadu, and she is the proprietor of Honest Bioscience, Chuchukurin. This shows that your respect towards women, sir. Thanks for that.
Thanks a lot. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Because of her only I can. So I'm doing it actually.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.